Revelation 21, and there's 22 chapters altogether, so we're finally getting near the end. And we've been talking about the New Jerusalem. And last time we talked about the 12 foundations, which was the apostles, the meaning of the names of the apostles, and that they were qualities that we need to acquire to enter the city. And here we're talking about measuring the city. Revelations 21, 15 through 17. And he that talked with me had a golden reed to measure the city, and the gates thereof, and the wall thereof. And the city lieth foursquare, and the length is as large as the breadth. And he measured the city with a reed, 12,000 furlongs. The length and the breadth and the height of it are equal. And he measured the wall thereof 144 cubits, according to the measure of man, that is, of the angel. Okay, so the city lieth foursquare, and the length, it says here, the length and the breadth and the height of it are equal. Now, it's 12,000 furlongs. How big is that? Anybody got any idea?
About 1,500 miles.
That's right. The word furlong is an old English word, but in the Greek there, in the original biblical Greek, they used the word stadion, which is a Greek measurement of around 600 feet. When the Greeks used to have these athletic events, they figured a person could run about 660 feet before he began to run out of steam. And so they called that a stadia. And this is the length of a furlong. And so 12,000 furlongs would be 1,500 miles. So it tells us that the city of New Jerusalem is 1,500 miles long, 1,500 miles wide, and 1,500 miles high. Now, most people read this, figure it's a cube. But
pyramid.
what other formation could it be and fulfill those dimensions?
A pyramid, for sure.
Right, right. You have a pyramid has four sides of this foundation, but it could also have that 1,500 miles in height. Now, and my belief is that it's a pyramid, not a cube. Okay. Now, if it's 1,500 miles high, that may not be the actual height, but it could be the length of a side. So if the length of a side of a pyramid is 1,500 miles from the bottom to the point at the top, that would make the pyramid itself just a little over 1,000 miles high because of the slant of the pyramid. So if you were running up the pyramid, you go 1,500 miles, but if you ran straight up, it'd be just a little over 1,000 miles to the top. But that's still pretty darn big. People think, well, man, so the New Jerusalem's going to come down and it'd be 1,500 miles in every direction. What would happen to all this? It'd squash a whole bunch of cities and everything to be able to settle down upon the earth.
Have to land in the ocean.
Where would it settle down at?
It'd have to land in the ocean.
Yeah. So what's the truth of the matter? Is that really the way it's going to be, that we're going to have a great big city come down and we're all gone? Boy, could you imagine how many people you could put? You could put everybody on the planet in that city. It would be so big. And it's amazing that John come up with a city of this expanse in his age because they didn't have any really large cities like we have today. About 1 million was the biggest city on the planet back in that day. Here now we have cities of about 30 million, but I don't think, probably not even 1 million, but a couple. I think the greater Rome was about 1 million, but uh, he come up with fantastic numbers that even boggles the mind today. So how does the New Jerusalem really come down that we can enter it?
Well, it could be a city made of people instead of stones. 144,000 people. There's the interesting statement about Jesus being the chief cornerstone, and I wondered a long time, well, what corner was he the cornerstone of? And then it dawned on me he was the
Yeah.
capstone, the top of the pyramid, and he says, "My power rains down, flows down to my people." So he's like the capstone and flowing down into these people, which represent the New Jerusalem, not actual physical stones, but individuals.
Yeah, that's part of it. It's something else.
Is New Jerusalem etheric?
Okay, you're on the right track there, Rain.
Well, we did the communion, the bread and water, the communion, and
Yeah,
then we went to New Jerusalem, and we had to leave our bodies to get there.
right.
So I figured it's not something that's going to take up ground space.
Okay, good thinking. The New Jerusalem is already here. It's just in another plane. So on the other side, there is an existence of the city of the New Jerusalem, and the 1,500 miles. Uh, they don't really measure miles there the way they do here, but it really tells us that the expanse of the New Jerusalem is unlimited, and it can hold an unlimited number of entities. And after we die, we go to and we return to the soul. We go to we actually dwell in the New Jerusalem, and to have the New Jerusalem come down to earth can happen in two ways. First of all, it happens is for the individual. The individual removes the barriers between himself and spirit, and then he enters the consciousness of the New Jerusalem. So he or she can have an experience, a spiritual experience, similar to living in the New Jerusalem while still in the body. But then eventually, what will happen with the earth, and who knows how long this may take, is that humanity will remove the barriers between us and the spirit world. And when these barriers are removed sufficiently, then the veil between heaven and earth here upon the earth itself will become very thin. And people here will be able to access the New Jerusalem at will. Many will do it during their sleep, and others will do it with out of body experiences and be able to enter the New Jerusalem. And so it can occupy 1,500 miles square right here upon the earth, but be invisible during normal waking hours, but still be here. Wouldn't come down in like a big cube or triangle and squash all the cities of 1,500 miles square and settle here. Wouldn't be that type of thing, but it's a revealing of pulling away the veils and right before us will be the New Jerusalem that we can enter and commune with what the book of Hebrews calls the innumerable company of angels and just men made perfect. And so that's the basic idea of how the New Jerusalem will actually manifest here. And he measured the wall thereof, and the wall was 144 cubits according to the measure of a man, that is, of the angel. So how high was the wall? 144 cubits. Anyone have any idea how high that would be? It's 266 foot high. That seems pretty high when you think that's a pretty high wall. But when you figure the New Jerusalem is 1,500 miles high, that's not a very big wall in comparison to how big the city is. What does this tell us? What's the symbology of it? The wall seems really high to us, but not very high in relation to the city itself. The wall symbolizes what?
Separation.
Right, separation. We're separated from the New Jerusalem by a wall. It's 266 foot high. That's higher than you can climb over. That's seems almost insurmountable to us. So if old Curtis here approached the New Jerusalem and he looked up and it's 266 foot high, he would think, man, how am I gonna get over this wall? This is going to be very difficult. And this is our approach to this is the way humanity looks at approaching the realm of spirit and the realm of where God Himself dwells. We think, boy, how am I ever going to be worthy to cross the barrier so that I can have the presence of God? And but when that is solved, that you are able to figure out how to get beyond the wall, then you see the city is 1,500 miles high. And that tells you that the reward there, compared to the 266 foot, 1,500 miles is just so much greater than the height of the wall. It tells us that the rewards of entering the New Jerusalem is so worth the struggle of getting over the obstacle to get there.
Well, when I had a vision of that one time, there was a door. There was a door, and I had to climb this ladder and came to this door, and there was no doorknob, no way to open it, and I had to knock on the door, and it was opened by what looked like a black witch, and I said, "Let me in. I know that behind this door is the kingdom of God in heaven." And she shut the door, and I knocked on the door again, and she opened it, and I forced the door open, and I walked in, and the room began to illuminate. And this woman that opened the door turned into this most beautiful goddess and was surrounded by other celestial divine beings. But I had to push that door open. It didn't open easily, but there was a door in the wall.
Yeah. And there's 12 gates to the New Jerusalem, 12 openings.
Right.
So we come to the wall and we think we're going to have to climb over it, and we can't climb over it, so we're just stuck here. And that's the way the average person kind of sees himself. We're stuck here. There's no way to commune with higher lives or with God or with Christ and all these things. That's beyond us, because you look up and the wall is 266 foot high, no way around it, but there's an entrance. And the entrance to get there, you're guarded by angels. And then you have the problem of, well, am I worthy? Will the angels let me through? And it turns out that you are your own judge. The angels dwell within you. And you ask yourself, am I worthy? Am I a true son of God? And when you get the answer that is yes, I am, and you realize who you really are, then the gates open and you can enter the city.
That's what happened. That's what happened in this vision I had a long time ago. I approached this large crowd of people, and they were looking up this gate or up this ladder, and I said, "What's going on?" And they said, "Well, we're afraid to climb this ladder because of the of what we might find up there, and once we start, we can't come back down." I said, "Well, I'll climb the ladder." So I climbed the ladder, and the other people, there was a crowd below, and they started to climb as well, and so others followed, but they were afraid to enter into a greater measure of light.
Yeah, once one person does something, then following them becomes a lot easier. It
Yeah.
increases your confidence.
JJ,
Oh, it said, well, yeah, Asif.
um, the gates, where are they? Are they in the wall or are they um in the pyramid itself?
In the wall. Yeah.
So so once you enter the gate, the pyramid itself, is it just open?
Um, yeah, I guess it doesn't tell us here about entering the actual pyramid, but it tells us the city is for 1,500 miles in square, and it's surrounded by a wall that's 266 foot high. And now it says it's yeah. So I would say that once you through the gates and you have access to the total New Jerusalem, and the New Jerusalem is made of etheric matter, so you can penetrate anything. You don't. It's not like you would come up to a big pyramid and can't get in it. You know,
Well, the
it's
Tibetan talks about different words, different formulas that like open sesame kind of thing, like that could penetrate the veil, different
yeah,
formulated words that
yeah,
are given out, they're given out through ceremony.
yeah. There's certain words of power that have a tremendous effect. Now it says the wall is 144 cubits, and I maintain that this is symbolic of 144 different labors or skills or barriers that the disciple has to pass through in his various lifetimes. So, and sometimes, like if you have to develop, say, a skill like in music, you may have to spend half a dozen lifetimes becoming a Mozart or whatever. You probably can't do it in one lifetime, but you have, and then maybe you switch over. You have to learn to be a doctor or medicine, and to be a really good one. It may take quite a few lifetimes again, but overall, there's 144 different lessons, major lessons that the disciple has to learn in the whole process of all his reincarnations, of all his lives that he lives on the earth. And when he completes them all, then he's ready to enter into the New Jerusalem and live there permanently. And it says that after a person has overcome, he shall enter, and it says, and he shall go no more out, meaning that once you overcome all things, and you can enter the New Jerusalem and you don't have to incarnate anymore, unless you decide you want to. You have freedom to do whatever you want. If you want to go back and have more experiences on this planet, you can, but there's greater things awaiting us when we have mastered all that there is to master here. Okay, also the 144,000 symbolic, very symbolic, because it's associated with 144,000 that follow Christ. It says, whithersoever he goeth. So that 144 keeps showing up again. The number 12 shows up regularly, and 144 is 12 times 12. And so there's a lot of symbolism in the numbers 12 and 144. Okay. Next
Well,
verse.
12,000 from each tribe. Would that be part of it?
Yeah, the 12,000 from each tribes of the children of Israel, making 144,000 there. And the building of the wall of it was of jasper, and the city was pure gold, like unto clear glass. And most scholars here think that jasper is the equivalent of the modern diamond. Because some of these Greek words, they have a hard time figuring out exactly what they were talking about. But most of the scholars think it's something like a modern diamond. So the city, it turns out, is made of two of the most precious materials on the earth, something akin to diamonds and also gold. But what's interesting about the two, it says that it speaks of the word pure and clear. And both of these words come from the same Greek word, which is katharos. And it really means more clear than pure. So where it says pure gold, it's really talking about gold that has transparency to it. So it says clear gold like unto clear glass. So the building of it then was of the wall was of a diamond-like material, and that you could see through. So you could see through this wall. Surpassing it's one thing, but you can see through it, and then when you see through it, you see the city is made of kind of a transparent golden material, probably with a golden radiation more than a gold look itself. So interesting description there.
Well, people have to become more transparent as well. They become more crystalline, transparent. You can see through them. They have nothing to hide.
Yeah, that's a really good point to make, because the symbology there tells us that to see the New Jerusalem, you have to look through a transparent wall. You have to be able to see through the walls. Now, the average person just cannot see through the walls between heaven and earth. We're stuck here on earth. We can't see heaven or understand it. But as the veils drop, the wall becomes clear as crystal, and we can see through it to see through the city. And then when we see the city, we see it has a gold radiation that you can see through it. So when you approach this great city, 1,500 miles square, you can actually see through it, see everything that's going on in the city. And you can, by the power of your thought, you can imagine yourself anywhere in the city, communicating with anyone you wanted to communicate with. So the gold is symbolic of pure gold has to be refined. And so the entities that enter have to drop all their material selves and focus on the consciousness of pure spirit. And when that consciousness is arrived at, then they can enter that city and commune with the higher lives. Now, this tells us that, like Curtis mentioned, that there's no veils, everything is seen. There's nothing hidden. And Jesus makes a statement here for speaking of the future. He says, "There is nothing covered that shall not be revealed, neither hid that shall not be known." And then he tells us in another time that everything will be revealed from the housetops. And that's pretty much happening today with the internet. You can't hide anything. The authorities try to hide a lot of stuff now, and they can't because it's leaked on the internet. So it's hard to hide anything these days. So that's happening actually physically among us. Now, back in the old days, before the internet, it was really easy to keep secrets. But it's much more difficult today because things just leak out and go viral.
Got a lot of whistleblowers out there.
Yeah, but in the New Jerusalem, there's no secrets. Everybody knows everything about everybody else. So because there's no secrets, there's no lying there at all. You cannot lie in the New Jerusalem because you can't cover up anything, which would be an interesting way to live. And the foundations of the wall of the city were garnished with all manner of precious stones. The first foundation was jasper, the second sapphire, the third chalcedony, the fourth emerald, the fifth sardonyx, the sixth sardis, the seventh crystallite, the eighth beryl, the ninth topaz, the 10th chrysoprase, the 11th jacinth, the 12th amethyst. So these are actually associated in ancient writings with the 12 signs of the zodiac. And the first, Jasper, is associated with Pisces. And the keynote of that is sacrifice. And these are 12 aspects the disciple must learn through these mastering of the 144 qualities as he goes around the zodiac.
Along that line, just let me say, in the labors of Hercules, the 12 labors of Hercules with an astrological interpretation, it goes through all of these 12 labors indicate the 12 principles.
Yeah, yeah. That's certainly worth reviewing. And the second is the second is sapphire, which is associated with Aquarius, and Aquarius, the keynote is service. Second is chalcedony, which is Capricorn, and the keynote of that is perseverance. And fourth is emerald, Sagittarius, and the key word for that is expansion. Fifth is sardonyx, Scorpio, and the keynote for that is acceptance. Sixth is sardius, and that's Libra, and the keynote for that is judgment, seeing the two sides and making a judgment down the middle. Seventh is chrysolite, associated with Virgo. The key word for that is nurturing. Eighth is beryl, and that's Leo, and the keynote for that is courage. And good old Curtis there, he's a Libra, and he was just telling us about the dream where he had the courage to break through there. 9 is Topaz, Cancer. The keynote for that is security. 10 is Chrysoprasus, which is Gemini, and the keynote for that is progressive. 11th is Jacinth, which is Taurus. The keynote for that is stability. 12th is Amethyst, and that's Aries. And the keynote for that keyword is initiative. So we have this order of the zodiac here, and the disciple progresses clockwise through the zodiac for most of his lifetimes until he reaches near the end, and then he reverses the order and goes counterclockwise through, incarnating through the zodiac. And the lesson of that is that we follow the line of least resistance. The average person does. He follows the line of least resistance. He does what he's told to do. He believes what he's told to believe. He, if he has two paths, then he'll choose the easy one. One of my favorite quotes is that two paths appeared in the woods, and I took the one less traveled by, and that has made all the difference. And we always have the two paths, and we tend to take the easy path for the first series of lifetimes that we have. For most, say about 95% of our lifetimes, we take the easy path. And then when we reach near the end of our progression, where we're ready to live in the New Jerusalem, we have to take the path of most resistance, the more difficult path. And to take the more difficult path, it requires an actual informed, conscious decision followed by an act of will. Because if you don't have any willpower and don't have any power over the will, are unable to make an informed decision, you will automatically take the path of least resistance. So the disciple, near the end of his incarnations, will take the more difficult path. And Jesus talked about this. He says, straight is a gate and narrow is a way that leadeth to life, and few there be that find it. And it's difficult to find because it takes a conscious understanding followed by an act of the will to go to that straight and narrow path. But eventually everybody finds it, but it takes a number of lifetimes to find it while still in the physical body, because the physical body is a tremendous barrier between man and woman and spirit. Okay, any more comments on that?
Yeah, the 12 signs are also correspond with 12 tribes of Israel.
Yeah, what's correspondence to the 12 tribes?
Each sign has a correspondence.
Oh,
and
yeah,
each
right,
stone
right. Each one of the tribes of Israel, I make that correspondent in my in one of my books about the gathering, about how and I make the correspondence of the 12 tribes to the 12 signs. And the 12 gates.
This is reversing when you go from Pisces, Aquarius, and Capricorn, this is the reversal.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting because Hercules went from Aries to
Pisces.
Pisces, which doesn't seem to be the reversal, but apparently it was, because the Tibetan says in the book that the normal course is of this actual sun is from Pisces to Aries. And so the reversal is in the actual incarnation is going through the normal zodiac as we see it, but the average person will go backwards. So
So
incarnating,
Hercules went from Aries to Pisces, so that was
that
the
was really backwards from the way the sun goes, according to the Tibetan.
so that was the transverse for the disciple or the initiate
Yeah,
to enter into the kingdom of God. That was his goal.
yeah. So that's the opposite of the way that the average person incarnates. And the 12 gates were 12 pearls. Every several gate was of one pearl, and the street of the city was pure gold, as if it were transparent glass. So here again, it tells us the gold is transparent, we can see through it. But the gates, the entrance were 12 pearls. This is why we talk about entering heaven, you got to go through the pearly gates. That's where that term comes from. But each one of the entrances were like kind of a pearl that kind of like these, I guess, these portals you go through in these science fiction shows. Um, what was that one about where they went through this Stargate? That Stargate is like
Time tunnel,
like a big pearl looking thing. maybe
time
it's
tunnel,
maybe it's 12 Stargates.
Stargate.
Yeah. Okay. Any other comments before we move on? Okay, that finishes it up. We'll talk about, we'll continue talking about the